The survival of 19-year-old Priya during a late-night commute in 2022 came down to a single moment of situational awareness from a bus driver. Priya was a student in a small city in Uttar Pradesh. An extra college class had run late, forcing her to navigate her way home long after the evening rush had ended. At 11:48 p.m., the bus stand was nearly empty. The daytime crowds had vanished, leaving Priya alone with only 3 other people in a dimly lit, high-risk environment. 2 men at the stand began staring at her, their attention fixed and unblinking. Priya noticed the behavior, but hoping to avoid a confrontation, she boarded the incoming bus and tried to ignore them. She felt a temporary sense of relief as she climbed onto the bus. Seeing 6 or 7 other passengers scattered in the seats suggested that she was back in a protected public space. That security was an illusion. The 2 men from the platform followed her onto the vehicle, moving into the cabin and effectively cornering her inside the moving bus. This chart shows the bystander-to-threat ratio. Security in public spaces depends on the presence of witnesses. As the number of passive observers decreases, the safety indicator plunges, moving the environment from a secure zone into a critical one. Over a 20-minute drive, Priya's safety net began to dissolve. At every stop, the other passengers disembarked, one by one, until the interior of the bus was nearly empty. Eventually, the bus reached a state of total isolation. No other passengers remained. Priya was left alone with the driver, the conductor, and the 2 men who had been watching her. Seeing that they were no longer being watched by a crowd, the men stood up. They began moving down the aisle, closing the distance between themselves and Priya's seat. Faster, more urgent tone. Priya tried to call her mother, but her phone had reached a critical 1% charge. Before she could connect the call, the device shut down, cutting off her only link to help. This is a scenario of systemic attrition. It demonstrates how layered security, like the presence of a crowd or a working smartphone, can fail simultaneously, leaving an individual defenseless in a matter of minutes. The driver serves as the primary observer of the vehicle's interior. From his position, he maintains responsibility for the safety of everyone on board. This schematic maps the driver's field of vision. Checking his rearview mirror allowed him to monitor the back of the bus. He immediately identified the anomaly, the predatory movement of 2 men converging on a lone passenger. The driver took immediate action. He diverted from the planned bus route and accelerated toward a known police checkpost, using the speed of the vehicle to prevent the men from acting. Successful intervention relies on recognizing the spatial preconditions of an attack. By identifying the threat before it escalated, the driver disrupted the criminal's timeline. The bus halted abruptly in front of the police barricade. By pulling directly into the path of the officers, the driver turned the interior of the bus into a confined space that the 2 men could no longer control. The men tried to flee through the rear doors, but they were immediately surrounded and apprehended by the waiting officers. An investigation later confirmed the driver's suspicions. Both men had existing criminal records and had been involved in multiple prior offenses, confirming the severity of the threat Priya had faced. Priya arrived home safely that night. She credits her survival to the driver's vigilance, viewing him as the person who stood between her and a violent encounter. Safety in our cities relies on the people who manage our public infrastructure. This driver's choice to monitor his mirror and alter his route demonstrates how individual vigilance acts as the final line of defense when other systems fail.